Hello and welcome to a special FA Cup videocast with the Mad Dog Ross Casey, who's been in pretty good form, a bit unlucky occasionally, especially with the old Bristol City.
Yeah, less said about that the better.
Yeah, and me of course, and we're just going to go through a couple of the key FA Cup games over the weekend. We'll start off with Championship Reading versus Premier League Palace. Reading are sitting in mid-table mediocrity at the moment. Palace are in free fall down the league. Pardew's starting to lose his mind, which is good, which is always good.
It's good for TV.
In this particular match, what's going to happen?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting story, of course, with Alan Pardew heading back to Reading, the place that he first made his name when he won the championship with that Reading team, with the likes of Leroy Lita and Dave Kitson and Jay Tab, who we saw just recently.
I actually talked to Jay Tab.
Yeah. He often used the pun, put it on the tab, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he said put it on the tab. What a man.
Not just a good footballer.
What a man.
Funny man as
well.
It
was in a bar, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that. You didn't just say
Yeah, so Pardew's back at the Medeski, and I fancy him to actually get a win. Palace have lost 7 of their last 11 games. As you say, they've been in free fall, not doing too well at all. But they are playing against an inconsistent Reading side, who, although at home the Royals are actually pretty good. They're actually unbeaten in 8, but up against Premier League quality here, they have already beaten West Brom, but that was when West Brom weren't quite the team that they were now. It turns out that West Brom are one of the best teams in the Premier League. But I do actually think that Palace have found their consistency in the FA Cup. They've only played 3 games so far, of course, in the FA Cup, and they've won each and every single one of those by just a single goal, including an impressive 1-0 win away at Tottenham. And I think
that was a crazy result, wasn't it?
It really was, yeah. And I think that could happen again. And that's a best price of 14-5. That's a pretty big price there. Palace to win by 1. They're not in great form, so if they are going to win this game, you'd imagine that they're only just scraped past Reading. And 14-5 looks a really good bet in my view.
I like these to win by a certain amount of goals bets. They're always pretty good value, I think.
14-5, so almost 3-1.
Yeah, decent, very decent. Next up, we got a all Premier League clash, pretty big clash as well, between Everton and Chelsea. Lukaku goes back to his old club to prove that he can do it at the big show, even though we know he can. He had a bit of a lull, and now he seems to be back again. Everton are firing a bit more recently as well, a bit more consistent. Chelsea have obviously suffered that loss in the Champions League to PSG. Will it affect their confidence here, though?
Well, more than their confidence that will be hit, I think it's their squad that will be hit. At the end of the PSG game, of course, which they lost, which was unfortunate for British fans in the Champions League. Diego Costa, who's their main threat up front, limped off with what looked like a groin injury, so I assume that he probably won't be in for this game. So
he went down quite easily, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah. So Traore or Remy will probably come in, and I don't really rate either of those two players. So that's a massive loss for them. Also, Hazard was trying desperately to leave the field, even though I'm not sure that he was actually injured. There's just, I don't know what's happened to.
There's something about Hazard, isn't there?
This season, last season brilliant. This season.
Doesn't want to play.
So beware Leicester fans with Jamie Vardy on the back of your shirt. Everton, of course, have already beaten Chelsea in the Premier League this season. I'm sure that you haven't forgotten Stephen Naismith's hat-trick
Never will.
In that match at the start of the season, where I couldn't believe it. It was goal after goal from Scottish international Naismith against Chelsea.
I had £100 on it.
There you go. At the time, of course, Chelsea were... well, they still are, but at the time they were champions of the Premier League and expected to be pushing for more silverware this season, whereas this is, of course, now is their only chance of silverware, so they will be desperate to get a result, but I just can't see it. Everton to win at 7-4 looks a pretty decent price to me. Everton pretty inconsistent at home, 1-3, lost 3 in the last 6, but a costless Chelsea is hardly something to be scared of, in my view. Everton bossed the game against West Ham. I still managed to lose it, but even with 10 men, they were bossing the game, and then they missed that penalty at 2-0 up. If it's 3-0, you assume it's game, set, match with only about 20 minutes left, but they still managed to lose the game. Thankfully, as I backed West Ham in that game. But they're a good team, and they play well, but they just need to see out a game or two, so it might need to be a 3-goal lead, just like it was in the Premier League match. 7-4 looks a decent bet for me, for a Chelsea side that are struggling for goals without Costa in the team.
Yeah, they're definitely going to struggle for goals, aren't they? They got that Traore kid, but he didn't seem very bothered, did he, either against PSG?
That's just strange,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I think that's a nice price. Odds against 7-4.
7-4.
Everton to win.
If you do fancy Chelsea, though, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that are backing them at 2-1.
Yeah, definitely. There will be definitely more than a few Chelsea fans at least. Next up on Sunday, we got Arsenal versus Watford. Arsenal are going for an unprecedented third FA Cup.
In a row,
they'll probably be... Oh, yeah, not ever. In a row, they'll probably throw on quite a few youngsters. They're against the Watford side, who narrowly lost to Leicester the other day. Igalo's not really firing like he was at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Can they bring it back against current FA Cup holders Arsenal?
Well, I actually do think that Watford have a decent chance here, but I'm not going to back them to win at 11-2. I think a better option here is an odds-on shot. Both teams to score at 13-5. Arsenal have just got no defenders left. Sorry, 13-15. Sorry, yeah. That'd be a really good price.
13-5, unbelievable price.
They've just got no defenders left. Jake, Gabriel's injured. Koscielny's injured, Mertesacker's injured. I'm not sure if any of those three will even make this match. If that's the case, I'm not entirely sure who will even play centre half. Maybe Monreal, perhaps. Maybe Flamini, perhaps. I can see Watford scoring, even though they've only scored 3 goals in the last 7 games. Igalo, in particular, looking woefully out of form. But he's still a good player. The goals will come. He's getting it in the right places. As you saw against Man United, where he had a hatful of chances and failed to get past David De Gea, but who manages to score against him anyway?
Not many people, especially in the first half.
Especially in the first half, yeah. Whereas Arsenal, I've actually let in 5 goals in the last 4, and that was even when they had some defenders and Petr Cech also. So I do think that Watford will probably score here, and of course Arsenal will, because as you saw against Hull in midweek, even though they're running out of centre halves, they've actually still got great players coming through the system. Adelaide looked really good when he came on. I was impressed with him, and if he plays here, he might even be a decent shout. He's a best price of 4-1 anytime goal scorer. He might not start the game, so maybe wait until the team sheets are out. But 4-1 is a really good price for a tricky attacking player. Iwobi looked pretty good as well. So they'll probably get on the score sheet. Watford are pretty hard to break down, as Man United found when they went to Old Trafford. They scraped past them with a free kick. But I do think that both teams will score here, and it's an almost even money price of 13-15.
Yeah, Watford are really hard to break down, aren't they? Their defenders do exceptionally well on fantasy.
If you've got them in your fantasy team, which unfortunately doesn't apply for the FA Cup.
No,
but,
should do.
So yeah,
they should somehow work out a way for making it. It's annoying when it's FA Cup weekend. You just think, oh no,
that's
no
true,
fantasy for 2 weeks. What am I supposed to do with myself? Okay, next up on Sunday as well, we're going to our last game. It's the Red Devils, Man United versus West Ham, on form, absolutely flying on form. Yeah. Man United just plodding along. They look like they're coming back, and then they just kind of put in a poor performance again. They're gonna. What we know for a fact is this game's going to be 0-0 at half time. So that's just not even that. That's just a given. You might as well just back that immediately. That's just absolutely certain. But what's your tip for this?
Well, as I was saying earlier, I did back West Ham to beat Everton at a huge price of 41-10, and they've been made a really big price again, 31-10. But I was looking at the stats, and Man United are a really good home side, and West Ham gained most of their points at home in recent weeks. Although at the start of the season, of course, they've already won at Man City, already won at Arsenal, Liverpool as well. They won at Anfield, so they can certainly win away from home also. But I think 15-8 on them in the double chance market is an amazing price. 15-8 on them not to lose this game.
Very rarely get that big a price.
Yeah, and I can see why the bookies are played safe. Looking at Man United's home form, I think it's 1 loss in 10 at home. They've only let in something ridiculous like 12 goals all season at home. And I can see why they played safe, and they're something like 4-7 favourites. But I wouldn't go with that at all. I think the better value bet is to go with the double chance, 15-8. West Ham have been absolutely brilliant of late. Payet's back in form after a slight few games where he was struggling after a return from injury. But he's back, and they're winning games. They've beaten Tottenham, they've beaten Everton. I think that 15-8 here is a really, really good price, and if they go through, I think there will be a really good bet to actually win this competition.
I think they might win it this year. I really think this is West Ham's year in the FA Cup. I think the fans would love it as well. But not the Arsenal fans just wouldn't even care if they won it again. I could just see them actually being annoyed. I could see that. I can imagine looking on Twitter after literally 5 minutes after they won the FA Cup and then being annoyed.
Wenger will stay now.
Yeah, and they'll be annoyed. They'll be angry. Oh great, another. We haven't won a championship. We've won a trophy, but it doesn't even count. It's the FA Cup.
I hope Stu's listening in the office.
Okay, so let's go through your selections then, Ross.
Absolutely, yeah. First up was Crystal Palace to win by 1 goal against Reading at 14-5. Second up was Everton to beat Chelsea at 7-4. Third up was both teams to score in the Arsenal-Watford game. And lastly, West Ham to either draw or win the game in the double chance market at best price of 15-8.
That would be a nice little accumulator.
Yeah, of course. You can get an accumulator with the Easy Odds app and get the best price from our chosen bookmakers. So download the app, read the tips on the site, enjoy the betting weekend, and all the best to your teams if you're one of the 8 clubs that are still in the FA Cup. I've been Ross Casey, this is Jake Johns. Thanks for watching.